So, we've had an adventure today. This is our second video because the first one did not save. It was about 35-40 minutes going down the drain. So right now, we're just a little bit salty. So I'm going to sip my coffee and we are going to knock this out of the park.
Once again, we're doing Mockingbird by Katherine Erskine.
And my name is Dana.
And I'm Samantha, and we are missing Emily. So my first question, because this book is about a girl who has Asperger's and her brother was shot in a school shooting, and she's trying to figure out how to process it, and she doesn't process it the way that typical people process it, and her dad is struggling, and she's not being much help to him during the process. But my first question is, what would have happened if Caitlin, the main character, didn't have Asperger's, and how would it change the story?
Well, I believe that like with the Asperger's syndrome, she's not able to process the emotions. And so if the Asperger's syndrome was not present with Caitlin, then I believe she would have mourned like everybody else. She would, especially since losing her brother, she'd be in shock. She'd be probably crying, depressed. She would mourn. I mean, she would go through the stages of grief, denial. But then I believe that she'd come to acceptance much quicker than she did in the book. And in the book, it took her nearly the entire book. We weren't into the 200s before she realized that she could care for others besides herself, because with Asperger's syndrome, your social skills are diminishing, or your intelligence is out the roof.
Yeah.
So I think if with that being said, the book would have been totally different, and we wouldn't have seen the growth of Caitlin and her overcoming her disability to mourn. Basically, I believe. What do you think?
I feel the same way about that. Honestly, you said it, put it a really good way. And once again, like, she goes through the counselor, and like the counselor's also trying to help her kind of grow. With her having Asperger's, the counselor's really trying to focus on her social skills, and I feel like that kind of helped her through the process as well of her way that she grieves. All right.
Based off what you said, that leads into my question, which is, if it wasn't for the Asperger's syndrome, how do you think, or even with the Asperger's syndrome, how could she have overcome her emotional roadblocks, do you believe?
Well, I said in the last video, I talked about how
You said a lot in the last video.
I talked about how maybe just sitting down and talking through it and taking a step back and realizing, hey, this, like, looking at how her dad is processing it and taking a step back and being like, okay, well, maybe I can try to process this the same way, rather than just being so upfront and straight about Devin's dead, sorry dad, like, kind of thing like that, and kind of throwing it in his face. But I think definitely sitting down and talking about what happened, and that could help both her and her dad understand.
I think that the dad suffers a lot because his wife died from cancer 7 years prior. His son just got gunned down, and then now his daughter is not emotionally there for him.
Yeah.
And everybody that he was loving his life has gone. I mean, I think, we don't really focus so much on the dad as Caitlin, but I believe that, the dad suffers so much. If Caitlin could be emotionally there for her father, I think they could both heal together instead of healing separately and slower.
Right. So my next question was, are there any details in the story that you can relate to?
Actually, there is. So, as stated previously in the video, in the previous video, last week at my field experience for psychology, I was at an elementary school in Neighbor County, and at 4:15 they came on the intercom saying we're under lockdown. Okay, the kids didn't think anything about it. They thought it was a drill. Well, we, the interns and the teachers, were instantly on alert because no school goes into a drill lockdown after hours. So we're like, okay, let's stay calm for the kids, but we want to know what's going on. So we're in the classroom, lock the door, typical lockdown situation. Kids kept playing, doing their stuff. A few minutes later, a teacher came in and said, all right, everybody get out. We were escorted by the police down the hallway, and we were put in the art and music room, and we were all put into these closets, and they could only be locked and unlocked by the police from the outside. So we were all in these closets for about 45 minutes. The reason was there was a knife. There was a man with a knife outside on campus, not in the school, but like right outside, like on the property and the property next to it, threatening to hurt himself, threatening to hurt others. He was high and he had mental issues. And so we were in there for about 45 minutes, and the police shot a beanbag gun at him and hit him with a beanbag, and were able to arrest him, and we were able to come out, and the kids were fine. And we were all fine, but it's one of those things like, I've been through several lockdown drills all my years of school, but never when it was a real thing. And this was a real thing, and we handled ourselves very well because of all the training we had. And so I know in this book there was a gunman who came in and shot the kids, but you see, we didn't know what was going to happen. When we heard the guys with the knife, he could have easily gotten into the school because they said that there were 4 doors unlocked. So police had to search every room in the school. That man could have easily gotten into the door and opened the door, and I could have stabbed one of us or one of the children. We had no idea. So we were on edge a little bit. I mean, it was nerve-wracking because that's one of those things you don't know what could happen. And here in the book, the worst happened. But so I can relate a little bit to how to the story, to the plot of the book at the very least.
Well, I was talking about how my younger brother is on the spectrum, and so I can relate to him not being able to pair emotions properly. And like I stated before, at my aunt's funeral, he couldn't pair that everyone was sad. Like, he just knew he was in church, and he loves going to church, so he almost started laughing, and we had to explain to him that it's a sad situation. You don't laugh at funerals, and he can't help that. That's how he picks up on emotions. He can't make connections like that. But where I'm coming from, I feel like you can relate more with like the dad and the teachers, where I can relate with Caitlin. Mm-hmm. But I feel like this book can be relatable to almost anyone, mm-hmm. not just people who have experience with kids with disabilities, or not just educators either, actual students.
You can plug this in anywhere. Which, talking about with the students, with the schools, leads into my last question, which was, how could we as teachers help kids deal with grief and deal with situations that like this might arise? Because sadly, we live in a day and age where disasters like this are becoming more common, and schools are easy targets because nobody is armed, nobody is defended. It's a sitting duck, and so we have a better chance in our careers, and our parents or grandparents did, about having situations like this happen in our school, either with a guy with a knife, or a gunman, or bombs, or it's the day and age and the world we live in, to where there's so much evil and so much like sinfulness and wrongness that we like very well could be affected by this. So how would we in our classrooms deal with if something bad happens, either one like a shooting, a stabbing, or like parents splitting up, or a relative dying? How would we help them with the grief and mourning process?
Well, definitely depending on the situation would be where you as the teacher could approach the student. You can pick up, most educators can pick up what's going on pretty soon if the student's work starts slacking off. And as a teacher, you can maybe pull them aside and just be like, hey, is everything okay? Or even like the teacher might get an email from the parent saying, hey, like, me and his dad we're splitting up right now, so it's going to be a little tough for him. So if he's not properly like actively engaged in learning, then that might be why. And I think the teacher being able to sit down and talk to the student is really helpful. And depending on the situation, maybe sending the students to a guidance counselor if it's a death that is really intense on the student. But for a school shooting, wise, I would say maybe like do like tie in literature somehow, or even just, any way you can tie anything into a lesson and still make it meaningful, but not fully focus on, oh, this is Greek, this is what this is, without being too harsh about it. And that includes all students, and you're not having to worry about that one student who is going through something, worrying about if other students are going to know about it and things like that.
Yeah, I agree. Like one thing you talked about that's really big now is like parents emailing.
Yeah.
I know I'm a junior now in college, but when I was a senior in high school, I did an internship at my old elementary school. And the teacher, like, the parents would text the teacher and email them and stuff like that to find out about the kid or find out stuff in the class and things like that. So, like, I mean, right now we're doing a video conference on a computer, so technology is a big aspect in schools, and so there's plenty of resources online about dealing with grief. And I think that's one thing that's going to help our generation of teachers out, is to see all the resources out there to use for teaching. So, like, we live in the information age to where by the swipe of a finger and click of a mouse, we got the whole world at our disposal. So I think that we can integrate technology into teaching about grief, but also just being real with the kids. Even the youngest ones, they're not dumb. They know what's going on. But like, just be loving, be caring, but be real with them. And I think that's a big thing. The kids know what's going on. If something bad happens, they're not dumb to the fact. They know. So I think that's one thing a kid would appreciate was, you didn't sugarcoat it. You were there for me, but you're also real for me. And I think in life, like later on, they might not like it then, but later on in life, I think they'll really appreciate it and it'll help for the growth.
I agree with that. Okay.
And that's our newscast, round 2. Hopefully this one will work.
Okay.